Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 359 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm talking about Vladamir Guerrero Jr. signing a long-term extension with the Toronto Blue Jays. So after they didn't reach an agreement with him before the season started, it seemed like an inevitability that star first baseman Vladamir Guerrero Jr. would become a free agent, and most thought he would leave the Toronto Blue Jays. Now here we are, not even a full month into the baseball season, and the team has reached a 15-year, $500 million deal with the Slugger. Guerrero Jr. is a four-time All-Star, a two-time Silver Slugger Award winner. He's a career .288 hitter with 160 home runs, which is 15th most since he made the majors in 2021. Let's kick things off by talking about that large number, $500 million. Only two players in the history of the sport have made more money, and they are Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani. Guerrero got better deals than both Aaron Judge and Bryce Harper, and you could have a real debate about whether or not he's on the same level as those two players. But what Guerrero Jr. had was all the leverage in the world, and there's a couple of reasons as to why. Number one, his asking price went way up after Juan Soto got his mega deal with the New York Mets. And the second thing is the Toronto Blue Jays had to do anything and everything to keep their star player. They had been rejected by the big names, Ohtani and Soto. They are desperate for star power, and it really would have become a dire situation if they let their own star walk out the door. And all the rumors and the speculation was about how he could potentially land with one of the Jays' divisional rivals, the Red Sox or Yankees. One of the ways that I believe Guerrero Jr. played this brilliantly was by saying that he wanted to be a member of the Toronto Blue Jays long term. I mean, the only way that people would have been okay with the Blue Jays losing out on Vladamir Guerrero Jr. if it was known that he didn't want to be there. But he did the opposite. He made it well known that he wanted to spend his entire baseball career with the Toronto Blue Jays, and that put all of the pressure, and I mean absolutely all of the pressure, on the Toronto Blue Jays to get this deal done. And look, I like it when the best players play on the bigger markets, with the Red Sox, with the Yankees, but we should all root for the middle and smaller market teams keeping their best players. It not only helps parity-wise, but also market-wise. It keeps fans of the Jays invested in the team, and I do think that part of it has been a bit overblown. Like, a lot of people are saying this is saving baseball in Canada. I think that's a little much, but this is a net positive for the Toronto Blue Jays and their fan base. Because again, it's one thing to be rejected by star players who haven't been playing with you, the Juan Sotos, the Shohei Ohtanis. It's an entirely other thing to be rejected by the guy you helped develop into a superstar player. So the Blue Jays' best player far and away is an everyday player, but weirdly, the strength of the team overall right now is their pitching staff. They have in the starting rotation Jose Barrios, Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, not to mention future Hall of Famer Max Scherzer. They are a team with big names who have underperformed offensively recently. Bo Bichette and George Springer, who have missed significant time due to injuries. And that's another reason Vladamir Guerrero Jr. had all of the leverage in this contract negotiation. He is their entire offense. He is the one guy who you can pencil in what his numbers are going to be. He's most likely going to hit 30 home runs and drive in 100. To give you some context, the Toronto Blue Jays were one of the worst offenses in all of baseball last year. They scored 671 runs, 23rd in baseball, and their 156 home runs ranked 26th. Offensively, this is a team that has not lived up to expectations. And weirdly, Vladamir Guerrero Jr. has benefited from that fact because he has remained a consistent presence in that lineup, and that's why he's now getting $500 million. It's interesting to look at who he's going to be playing with long term. I mean, the team just signed Anthony Santander from the Baltimore Orioles. He's a very good offensive player as well. You can usually pencil him in for 30 home runs. I have no idea how interested the team is in keeping shortstop Bo Bichette there long term. I mean, he hasn't been great the last year and a half or so. What I do know is if they want to take full advantage of Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s prime, they need to surround him with a better lineup if they want to contend with the Boston Red Sox of the world, the New York Yankees of the world, and the Baltimore Orioles of the world. I mean, those teams are stacked offensively. They don't have huge holes in their lineup. What the Blue Jays now have in Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a centerpiece to build around. You know he's going to be there for at least the next 15 years. Put together the absolute best lineup around him. I did think the Blue Jays had a good offseason. Again, they brought in Anthony Santander. They brought in Andres Gimenez, who is a very good, solid second baseman. They brought in Max Scherzer to shore up the pitching staff. And they filled the closer role with Jeff Hoffman, who is a very good relief pitcher. This upcoming offseason or even the trade deadline, they should look to add another premier bat to go along with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Like this coming off season, they should definitely be a team in the running for Kyle Tucker. I mean, could you imagine a Toronto Blue Jays team with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Kyle Tucker? They would immediately become one of the best offenses in all of baseball with that duo. Another big name who I think they should acquire via trade is Luis Robert Jr. He's on the Chicago White Sox, the worst team in all of baseball. He is a young outfielder who hasn't lived up to expectations last season, but I do believe in his overall talent. Look, I get it. The consensus is that star players don't want to play for the Toronto Blue Jays, but they will if the Toronto Blue Jays prove themselves to be a competitive baseball team. And signing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to this long-term deal is a step in the right direction. Because if they didn't do this deal, it would look to be a complete and total rebuild, which no free agent signing wants to be a part of. You have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., so now future free agents and guys who might want to come there via trade know that you are at least for real. But the one thing the Toronto Blue Jays don't want to become is that team that has that one offensive star and then they continue to struggle scoring runs. I mean, I look at the Seattle Mariners. That's what you don't want to be, and that's kind of where the Blue Jays are right now. I mean, the Mariners have Julio Rodriguez, and then they have one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball. But what is stopping them from really being legitimate contenders is they don't score enough runs. And the Toronto Blue Jays are in that same situation. They have the Gosmans, they have the Bassetts, they have the Barrioses, but they don't score runs. And it's a tricky situation. I mean, do you trade one of those starting pitchers to try to shore up that weakness, but then does your strength then become a weakness? The Blue Jays on paper should be a way better offensive team, and George Springer is off to a hot start, so if he is the George Springer who he was in Houston, then the Blue Jays are going to be a way better team offensively moving forward. And if Anthony Santander is the same guy he's been in Baltimore, then they're going to be a good offensive team. But most people would admit that the huge difference is going to come down to Bo Bichette. If he's the Bo Bichette he was 2 years ago, then the Blue Jays are going to be in business and they're going to be competing for the AL East division title. With a contract as big as this one, there's going to be real pressure for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to perform at a high level. And I have no doubt for at least the first 7 years he's going to look good. The back half of these contracts, however, never look good. But look, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has to be a guy in these next 7 to 10 years who is a consistent all-star, a consistent MVP candidate if the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be a good baseball team. Because before he was just talked about as the face of the Toronto Blue Jays, but now he's going to be viewed as the $500 million man. I mean, I'm already hearing it with Juan Soto. I mean, every Juan Soto game, there comes so many differing opinions about him. Oh, he's not worth the $700 million contract. Oh, if he's going to live up to his tenure with the Mets, he has to at least hit 35 home runs a season. The standard from fans and media becomes way higher when you're this high paid of a player. You may be used to being lauded when you have a season where you hit 30 home runs. Now we are expecting you to hit 40 to 45 home runs. And I've been negative on these kind of deals in the past. I've been that guy who's been grouchy about the long-term deals in baseball, how the money is insane. But I look at Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and I go, he's only 26. The Toronto Blue Jays had to do this deal with this specific player because they are in a rare situation. They didn't have any plan B. What was going to be their plan B? To build the team around Bo Bichette? That doesn't get people excited. I like Bo Bichette. He's a good player, but Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is and could continue to be a great one. The Blue Jays tried to do what the Dodgers are doing. They were in on Ohtani. They were in on Soto. Those players chose different teams. They didn't choose the Blue Jays. So the Blue Jays instead chose their own player, and I can't blame them for that. No other superstar player was walking through that door to help the Toronto Blue Jays. $500 million may seem ridiculous now. I don't know how I'll feel about the deal in 5 years. Maybe the numbers are going to continue to get so astronomically high. And in today's baseball offseason, you can just not let your player even get to free agency because that's when the bidding gets so ridiculous. I mean, with the Juan Soto sweepstakes, there were so many high numbers out there. And if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had a, let's say, 50 homer season this year and then became a free agent, what are you going to do then? Give him $600 million? This was the right play for the Toronto Blue Jays, and I don't understand anyone who's not on their side when it comes to this deal. They had to get this deal done. I think it's good for both sides. I have this thing, and I've talked about it on this very podcast, that I think it is always the right play for a baseball player to want to stay with their original team where they have found great success. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has a chance to become the greatest Toronto Blue Jay of all time. Now, the other players in that conversation right now are pitcher Roy Halladay, IRP. He's the best starting pitcher in franchise history. You can't talk about the best Blue Jays of all time without mentioning his name. And then you have first baseman Carlos Delgado, a guy who I think should be a baseball Hall of Famer. The guy's got 473 career home runs, just saying. Third baseman Josh Donaldson, and outfielders Jose Bautista, George Bell, Joe Carter, and Vernon Wells, one of my favorite players to watch ever. If he really did end up with the Boston Red Sox, which I would have loved because I'm a fan of that team, but he would just be another guy. I mean, the Boston Red Sox are full of legends. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was never going to be thought of as the greatest Red Sox of all time. I mean, they already have Ted Williams, David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez. The list goes on and on and on. The Blue Jays have had success. They've won 2 World Series, but they don't have that kind of history. There's no one player you look at and you go, wow, this is the greatest Blue Jay ever. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr., if he lives up to his potential, could wind up being that guy. And I think that's better to be the greatest Blue Jay of all time than a memorable Red Sox or Yankee at this point. I mean, those franchises' history are filled with legendary player after legendary player. By staying in Toronto, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has a chance to cement himself as the greatest Blue Jay ever. One of the reasons some people are surprised by that $500 million is by the fact that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a first baseman, and it kind of seemed like baseball was no longer paying first basemen like they were superstar players. I mean, just this past offseason, we saw Pete Alonso struggle to get the deal he wanted from the New York Mets. I mean, baseball was starting to feel like a sport where only star hitters and star pitchers were getting outrageous contracts, and that first baseman, they were going to cap out at, let's say, $200 to $250 million. For example, Freddie Freeman, World Series MVP Freddie Freeman, signed a 6-year, $162 million deal from the Dodgers. Now, that seems super reasonable for a player of his caliber. And in recent years, some of the mega deals for first basemen didn't really pan out. I mean, you had Prince Fielder signing with the Tigers for a lot of money. That didn't really work out. Then you had Albert Pujols signing with the Angels, and we all know that that did not work out either. So how did Vladimir Guerrero Jr. get this kind of money, even though he's a first baseman? And I came up with this. I think it has to do with the fact that he is a young player. Those are the guys getting the mega deals now. No longer are the 30-year-old veterans going to sniff anywhere near $300 million. It's going to be all about the youth, because you can give a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. a 15-year deal and get your fan base all excited about the future of your team. I mean, let's be honest, this has shifted everyone's opinions about the Toronto Blue Jays. We all thought they were going to be in a very bad situation where they would be losing their superstar player. When they signed Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we all went, wow, the Blue Jays kind of are for real. And I know people have negative backlash towards these kind of deals, but there have been some that have worked out in recent years. I mean, look at Bryce Harper with the Philadelphia Phillies, Manny Machado with the San Diego Padres, and what makes this work so well for me is the fact that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has already been a member of the Toronto Blue Jays. This is not a free agent signing. This is them locking down their star to a long-term deal. We all know what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is as a member of the Toronto Blue Jays, one of the best offensive first basemen in all of baseball. And I guess I'm just really tired of having that same old conversation. Is any athlete worth $500 million? Absolutely not. But here we are. This is modern baseball. These are the kind of deals these kind of players are going to continue to get. Kyle Tucker is going to get an exorbitant amount of money when and if he becomes a free agent. Looking at the big picture, I believe less and less baseball players are going to hit free agency. I think more teams are going to be proactive, like the Toronto Blue Jays, and try to sign their stars to long-term deals. Because the fear is, if a star like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hits free agency, he's going to talk to the Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and of course, the LA Dodgers. That's why if I were the Chicago Cubs who just traded for Kyle Tucker, I would try to sign him to a long-term contract right away. You don't want to get into a bidding war with teams that have an unlimited amount of money in their budgets. This is a huge victory for the Toronto Blue Jays. They are going to remain relevant. They are going to continue to be a team I'm at least interested in. Look, I have to watch the Blue Jays a lot during the season because they play my team a lot, the Boston Red Sox. And I appreciate the fact that they have good players on their team, but they would become instantly unwatchable if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was not around. They have now proven they can convince one of their own stars to stay in Toronto. Now the question is, can they actually convince a high-priced free agent to join Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to continue to improve offensively? I really did like the signing of Anthony Santander. I mean, he has hit really well and he stays in the same division. That was a good move, but you might be losing Bo Bichette. You might need to fill that hole. The Blue Jays are one of the strangest teams in baseball in that I wouldn't be surprised if they were a middling 500 team, and I wouldn't be that shocked if they won 92 games and made the playoffs. Like, they need to prove it on the field that they can compete with the Red Sox, Yankees, and Orioles. And who knows, they might start start to play better baseball, because this really does remove a giant distraction. Now we can stop talking about whether or not Vladamir Guerrero Jr. is going to stay there long term. He has agreed to remain the face of the franchise, the building block to which you can continue to build moving forward. I don't know if he has the potential to be a better baseball player than his dad. I will say I do believe he has the potential to be a future Hall of Famer. Like, I could definitely see him being a guy who ends up hitting over 500 home runs in his career with the Toronto Blue Jays. And my final thought is, it's better for the sport of baseball that he remains a member of the Blue Jays than joins a bigger market. And you have to give it to the Blue Jays. Not every team in baseball would be willing to spend this kind of money to keep their player. I really respect that they did that. And I hope it pans out for them. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So please rate, review, and subscribe.